HE News, Episode 13. Welcome back to another episode of Health Empowerment News with CROFT WOODRUFF. This week, the B vitamins, the deficiency disorders, supplementation, and your health. Welcome back to Health Empowerment News with CROFT WOODRUFF. We're here in the Vancouver studio. My name's Andrew McGivern.
Good afternoon, Andrew.
And today we're going to talk about B vitamins. We're going to go through all the different vitamins. I think there's 8 or 9 of them, Croft?
Yes. We're looking at actually about 11, I think.
Oh, wow.
Because you have thiamine.
Vitamin B1, thiamine.
Riboflavin, B2. You have niacin, which is B3, but also niacinamide, which is sometimes categorized as B4. Then you have B5, which is pantothenic acid. B6, which is pyridoxine. Pyridoxal 5-phosphate is its actual chemical name, I guess. That's B6. Okay. Then we have, we'll jump to vitamin B12. Then there's folic acid.
That would be B9?
Yeah. Biotin.
B7.
And I think that's it, isn't it?
So we've got these, they're all water-soluble vitamins?
Basically, they are. Yeah, I know what we have to mention, too, of course, is choline and inositol. They comprise of lecithin, but they are considered part of the B vitamin family. And they are emulsifying agents, so they can be used to transport both the oil and water-soluble nutrients. They play a very important role in brain and neurological function as well. But so we'll go right back to the beginning. Thiamine.
Okay, thiamine is good for...
Thiamine is, there's the 3 Ds, dementia, delirium, and death for the lack of thiamine. And I think riboflavin and also niacin or niacinamide. And of course, beriberi was once considered a tropical disease, if I recall correctly, but it's the B vitamins that solved that. The Japanese Navy found that out way back in the 19th century, where the sailors, they had problems with beriberi, and the fact is that it was the white rice, you see. And of course they had a devil of a time persuading Japanese sailors who were raised on white rice that it would be better if they ate the brown rice, and so there was almost a revolt. And it's interesting enough, too, there was an anecdote about this mental asylum somewhere in Southeast Asia, and all the inmates were on white rice. And somehow or another they changed cooks, and instead of the chickens getting the polishings, the inmates got the polishings, and they all got better. And
Interesting.
And I guess the chickens lost their feathers.
And vitamin B2, I'm just looking at... Wikipedia right now. Deficiency of vitamin B2 causes erybroflavinosis.
That's a fancy word.
Cracks in the lips.
Yeah, that is a sign. Yeah, it's also called chelosis, where you have cracks in the corners of the lips and of the corners of the mouth. And yes, that's chelosis. And some smart ass of a doctor asked me what was chelosis, and I knew what cracks in the corner of the mouth were all about, and I knew that it was a riboflavin deficiency, but I wasn't able to associate it with the term chelosis, so he thought he had one up on me. But in any case, yes, light sensitivity, your eyes being sensitive to light is also a sign of a riboflavin deficiency. The visual purple, which allows your sight to adjust from dark to light, bright rooms to dark rooms again, is dependent on riboflavin, adequate riboflavin levels.
So niacin is, as you were saying before, pellagra?
Yes, and schizophrenia, definitely mental illness. But also, guess what? Niacin lowers blood cholesterol. 1,000 milligrams of niacin a day. That's just 2 500-milligram tablets, if you can stand the flush, but you can get no-flush niacin, and it does lower cholesterol. Now, this is work that was established by Drs. Hoffer and Osmond, as well as Dr. Manuel Churaskin, and other physicians and psychiatrists working with the B vitamins. Also, it was noted that it can help to slow down memory loss. So very, very important B vitamin.
And this is the vitamin that causes a flesh.
Yes, that's the pure niacin itself. Niacinamide, which is the a stable form of niacin, I guess you could say, because it doesn't cause the flesh, but it is valuable. It can help with memory and with other functions relative to the brain.
What is the B vitamin that causes the urine to be bright yellow? Is that riboflavin?
Yeah, riboflavin does that. Yeah.
A lot of people say that when they see that, they're saying that
they're peeing their vitamins down
the drain. But
well, I'd rather be urinating a surplus of nutrients rather than trying to get by on a scarcity, because the people who are in trouble mentally and physically, more often than not, they're that way because they have a scarcity of these important nutrients in their diet.
Mm-hmm. I like the what was that cartoon by Mike Adams, where it shows expensive urine. On one side, it has a list of B vitamins and vitamin C and whatnot. On the other side, it has a list of Viagra, Lipitor, and various other over-the-counter and prescription drugs, and tallies up the cost on each side and which one's more expensive.
Exactly. And, of course, they're peed down the drain, too, because they're finding in the sewage treatment plants, they're finding sometimes whole undissolved pills, but also this stuff is in solution, and they've got to filter all of that out if they're recycling the water for potable purposes, drinking water, in other words.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another issue that has to be considered. Yeah.
Moving on to vitamin B5, pantothenic acid.
Yeah, that is an anti-stress vitamin. Apparently the adrenal glands are a high site of pantothenic acid as well as vitamin C. The studies that were done by, and I forget his name, he was a biochemist in Montreal, and he said that rats that were given pantothenic acid swam many times longer than rats who didn't have pantothenic acid. And so there was gives you strength and endurance that you otherwise wouldn't have. But the same thing could be said for vitamin C. But definitely it is a very important anti-stress factor.
And deficiency can result in acne and paresthesia? And
fatigue, yeah.
So people who do have acne, would it be true that supplementing with vitamin B5 will help? It will help.
The B vitamins are important for the health of the skin anyways. They should be taking all the B vitamins in significant potencies. And of course, a very important mineral for skin health is zinc.
Interesting.
And I've seen 21-year-old men come into to me for information and advice, and suffering from acne, particularly across the back and on the face, and clear it up in a matter of 3 to 4 weeks by taking about 50 milligrams of zinc citrate or zinc gluconate a day. And zinc ointment is very good to put on wounds for promote healing and lessening of scars. Vitamin E is good for that too.
And vitamin B6.
Okay, pyridoxine. It seems to be the antidepressant vitamin. And again, brain and neurological function, very important role there.
Last February, one of the major pharmaceutical companies patented a synthetic form of vitamin B6, I think in the form of pyridoxine.
Yeah, well, pyridoxine hydrochloride, they've patented. Well, the natural form of vitamin B6 as it's found in food is pyridoxal 5-phosphate. But there are other forms of it as well. So whatever they're patenting, if it works, fine. But then if they're patenting it, you're going to pay a premium price. And what is their step going to be? To ban all other forms of vitamin B6 off the market?
Well, they petitioned the FDA in the U.S.
to do just that.
And their argument is that vitamin B6 supplements contain a drug, but it didn't contain a drug until they made a drug out of it.
That's right.
And patented a similar but slightly different molecule.
Yeah. So are they going to get away with it? It's the $64,000 question.
Well, it looks
Maybe it'll be a $64 billion question when they take it out of the food chain as a supplement, as an item that has to be prescribed, and doctors know zilch about vitamins. Then there's going to be all kinds of problems. But so far, they haven't got anywhere with this, I presume.
They did the same thing with tryptophan.
Yes, they did, and I don't know how long that's going to last because people have already got around that with 5-HTP. And then there's tyrosine, which can be metabolized into tryptophan by the body. And I say, well, the best thing to do is to work with your liver and make sure that it gets the nutritional factors that will allow you to synthesize your own tryptophan, which can be done. And there are foods very rich in tryptophan anyways, meat and fish and eggs and milk, cheese, all this sort of thing. So there are ways of getting around it.
And vitamin B7, biotin?
Okay, biotin has more to do with healthy hair and the quality of the hair. And that's about all I can tell you about biotin. I haven't come across too much on it.
Yeah, it's saying there's not really any deficiency disorder associated with it.
Yeah.
May lead to impaired growth and neurological disorders in infants.
Yeah, which may is a big if. The bottom line is this, that we have to realize that the B vitamins work together as a team. And if you get your B vitamins in whole food, and that means food that isn't processed and doesn't have to have stuff added to it, then you're going to be better off for it. And, of course, if you supplement, then you want to make sure that you have a supplement that has all the B vitamins in it in significant potencies. And today there are brands out there that have B vitamins, a high potency multiple vitamin and mineral that has a significant amount of B vitamins, in 50 milligram lots. Micrograms, of course, according to what's allowed in terms of folic acid and vitamin B12. Biotin is also in micrograms. Folic acid for restless leg syndrome. They've limited the maximum amount of folic acid in a vitamin tablet, either by itself or in a multiple vitamin, to 1 milligram, which is 1,000 micrograms. Okay.
So folic acid, that's vitamin B9.
Yeah.
And its deficiency disease is macrocytic anemia and also causes elevated levels of homocysteine.
Yes, which can lead to heart disease. But it's also very important, again, for healing. It's very important for the cell replication, the DNA, and repairing a damaged DNA. Folic acid plays a very important role in that. And deficiency in a woman who is pregnant, if she's deficient for the first 3 months of her pregnancy, her chances of giving birth to a child with neural tube defects, so-called spina bifida, where you actually have an opening to the spine, to the outside of the body, or other crippling conditions, that is a folic acid deficiency.
And vitamin B12, cobalamin?
Cyanocobalamin or cobalamin. Again, this is a B vitamin that has a mineral in it, cyanide.
Yeah, we talked about that in the last episode when we were talking about Laetrile.
Yes.
In our natural cancer therapy episode, which was labeled vitamin B17.
That's right.
Although it wasn't officially...
No, it's never been recognized officially as a B vitamin. But the fact is it is found virtually in all seeds within the pit of the cherry, apricot, peach, plum, apple seeds, pear seeds. Any of these you will find this so-called Laetrile and or amygdalin is the other word that they use for it. So the B12, pernicious anemia is caused by B12 deficiency. Vegetarians, total vegetarians, are the ones who are at risk for pernicious anemia, B12 deficiency. And I do know of a couple of instances where these were people who were total vegetarian, and no B12 in their diet, wouldn't take any B vitamins for supplement, and they died of pernicious anemia. And that was right here in Vancouver.
You were mentioning before the show that there's some rumors or bad press, I guess you'd call it, going around for the B vitamins.
Oh, yeah. If you take too much B12 and folic acid over a long period of time, you are at risk of being more susceptible to cancer. This was a study that came out of Norway, and this is the type of study that is designed to give you bad results simply because the subjects were heavy smokers and heavy drinkers, candidates who would be highly susceptible to getting cancer regardless of whatever they were taking besides tobacco and alcohol. We know that tobacco smoke, because of what the impurities that are in it, is a confirmed carcinogen. And we know that there are factors in different wines and alcoholic beverages that may contribute to cancer. So to try and hang cancer on 2 essential B vitamins is totally laughable, and it shows you how science can be prostituted. Who benefits from people not taking B12 and folic acid is the question that has to be asked. Whoever paid for that study probably is the one who would benefit from such adverse findings. But I could take you to studies that have been done over 30 and 40 years ago where vitamin B12 and folic acid were very important and playing a role in preventing cancer and also playing a very important role in the treatment of cancer. There is a reference buried way back in my files about a biochemist. I think she was a Catholic nun, but she worked in a university and in biochemistry, and she was successfully treating cancer patients with something like 10,000 international units of B12, and I forget what the dose of folic acid was, but it was in conjunction, both together, and the cancers were going into remission.
Interesting. There's an article that came out in May 2003 in the UK, and it says, high doses of vitamins and minerals taken over a long period of time could cause permanent damage to your health and may lead to cancer, warns the UK Food Standards Agency.
Gee, tell that to Linus Pauling, who he died at the age of, 93? Same thing with Emmanuel Cheraskin. He died in his 90s. Albert Zent-Georgia. These are all great users of vitamin C, as well as the B vitamins and minerals. And he lived into his late 80s or 90s. I'm trying to remember the name of the biochemist. He was with the University of Texas, and he, more than any other biochemist, was responsible for identifying many of or most of the B vitamins. He's the one who actually isolated and identified folic acid as a B vitamin.
The article continues saying that the FSA is urging people to cut down on vitamin C, calcium, iron, and has for the first time set safe daily limits for various supplements. It also issued strong warnings on 6 and even demands the ban of one product, which is chromium picolinate, yeah, which they say could cause cancer.
Well, of course, this is, again, faulty science. Chromium picolinate, just like what we call glucose tolerance factor chromium, is very important for people who have a susceptibility to blood sugar fluctuations, pre-diabetics, people who suffer from hypoglycemics. These are people that actually benefit from a chromium supplement. So again, this is, bad science. With regard to lowering the vitamins, well, we already know that the recommended allowances for vitamin C are way too low. As I said before, we're seeing the recurrence of scurvy among children in the United Kingdom. Now, this is a subject of a report in the British newspapers in November of this year, 2009.
We're going to be talking about vitamin C going into great detail on vitamin C in our next episode. But they're talking about nicotinic acid.
Of course, nicotinic acid is another word for niacin.
Yes,
and niacin is very important in dealing with schizophrenia and other illnesses, mental illnesses. And it's amazing. I know of an instance where this gentleman who was clearly a schizoid, and he'd be carrying on a conversation with my friend, and all of a sudden he would start arguing with an invisible being alongside him, at least so he thought, and in very strong terms, and then he turned back and resumed the conversation with my friend. Well, it just happened that my friend is a great believer in taking vitamins, and he happened to have a no-flesh niacin handy, and companion said, what is that? And could I try that? Well, sure, and he gave him one. It's amazing the effect that it had on him, because this guy was not a very good person to be around in terms of company, because very hostile and argumentative. And the next thing my friend knows is that somebody else comes by and, what have you done? Because he's so, what's with so-and-so? He's changed, Just one dose of niacin. No flesh niacin.
Interesting.
No more voices.
So you've got articles like this and the study that you mentioned before, which really confuses people over the use of these products.
Well, it's meant to. It's obviously meant, because, again, I think it is a policy of the sickness industry, and especially those who profit most from it, to divert people from taking control and responsibility for their health by, for instance, learning how to eat properly and making correct choices in foods and beverages, and supplementing their diet where it might benefit. It doesn't mean that you have to sit down and take about 40 vitamins every day. By wise investment, you can get yourself a very significant multiple vitamin and mineral of the high-potency B vitamins, where what I call the macro Bs, the more potent Bs, are in the 50 milligram range, and your micro Bs, which like B12 and folic acid and biotin, will be in micrograms, but in proportionate amounts, where there'll be 50 micrograms or 100 micrograms or 1,000 micrograms in the case of vitamin B12. And then, of course, a balance of minerals in that. This can make a big difference just by taking one of those a day. Maybe some extra vitamin C, 1,000 milligrams a day, can make a whole lot of difference for a person's state of health and well-being. But if people have more serious problems, then it might mean that they have to take extra of this vitamin or that vitamin over and above the basics. And people don't get enough magnesium, for instance. Magnesium is an orphan mineral. It's much ignored, and yet it is the lack of magnesium is one of the major causes of heart attack or stroke, because the magnesium is what helps regulate the heartbeat and the pulse. For a lack of magnesium, the pulse can collapse and cause a blockage and bring on a stroke or heart attack.
Interesting. Just looking at the vitamin toxicity levels here. On this site here, it's showing that tolerable upper level intake for most of the B vitamins, there isn't one. Vitamin B3, they're saying 35 milligrams a day.
Which is absurd.
And vitamin B6, 100 milligrams a day.
What would you say when you have somebody like Canadian prisoners of war in these Japanese camps? I mean, it was just despicable the way our soldiers were treated in these prison camps. And they were healthy men when they went in, and when they came out, some of them were very, very well. They were skin and bones, and some of these people, because of these years of starvation, chronic starvation, actually developed acquired requirements for larger doses of B vitamins, larger amount of B vitamins than an ordinary diet would ever supply, a good diet would ever supply. And this is work that was established by the late, great Canadian biochemist and medical doctor Abram Hoffer. through his knowledge and his work as first in biochemistry, then as a medical doctor, he was put in charge by Tommy Douglas. He was put in charge of the mental hospitals in Saskatchewan. I mean, until Abe took over, they were rat holes. And he cleaned them out with the B vitamins. He and Humphrey Osmond, they worked together. Two great Canadian scientists and medical doctors. And what kind of acknowledgement do they get? They are men with honor outside of this country. But because of politicians and their love affair with the people who finance their political campaigns, Big Pharma. But the bottom line is that there were returning Canadian soldiers who, thanks to Abe Hoffer, were able to return to normal life because he found out that they had acquired through the treatment in the Japanese prison camps higher requirements for the B vitamins, especially vitamin B3, niacin. And one of the participants in his study was a lieutenant governor of the province of Saskatchewan. And I just can't remember the gentleman's name, but he benefited from being part of the study that Dr. Hoffer conducted. And I recommend people get Dr. Hoffer's book. It's, I guess, about the last one he wrote, and it's Adventures in Psychiatry, or orthomolecular psychiatry, Abram Hoffer. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a must book on a reading list. But anyways, having said all that, yeah, this is absurd to set these upper limits. These people don't even know what they're talking about. Because today, over the counter in any health store or pharmacy in North America, you can find B vitamins in 100 milligram potencies, 200 milligram potencies, 500 milligram potencies. You can find a B complex, high potency B compound, where your macro Bs are all 50 milligrams, or even 100 milligrams. Some of them are in a time release format, and which is all well and good. But the fact is that some people benefit from having the B vitamins dump into their gut all at once. And they take them out, and if they're absorbing, they will know because they will have yellow-colored urine, a brilliant chrome yellow in their urine, which shows that at least they're absorbing them. And don't kid yourself, your kidneys need B vitamins too. And certainly the liver does, and every cell in your body. I mean, this is insanity for them to set limits on these things. They know nothing about this sort of thing. And this is just, well, totally dishonest.
Abram Hoffer was treating psychiatric patients with schizophrenia and various other mental disorders.
With B vitamins, especially niacin or the no-flesh version. Niacinamide as well works in many cases, and also the vitamin B6.
And then there's True Hope's EM Power Plus product.
Exactly, and what is it? It's a formulation that is basic. It's based on B vitamins and minerals. And, of course, Abe Hoffer wasn't ignoring the minerals either in his therapies that he was recommending for these people, for these mental patients, and with great success. As I said, he virtually emptied the hospital wards, the mental hospitals in Saskatchewan. In this province, we closed down Riverview, and we've got them all down on the downtown east side, much to the discredit of this government in Victoria today and the preceding governments. They should all be held up for crimes against humanity, as far as I'm concerned. We should all be outraged by what's going on. They haven't got enough shelters for the people. This is absolutely absurd. Yet the government will fork over about $92 per person per night to the Sally Ann or the Catholic charities to put them up on a cot or a floor mat, and they get a food voucher to McDonald's the next day, or maybe a better meal at the Sally Ann. But the bottom line is that this is no way to treat homeless people, and many of these people are mentally ill. Yes, some of them might be drug addicts, but that's a matter of circumstances, and they shouldn't be judged just by that alone. Mm-hmm. And these people need proper shelter and proper food, and maybe a few other things that helps a person to build their self-esteem. And when you see these people, I mean, when I come in here into town on the weekend, and I come off of Highway 1 onto First Avenue, East First Avenue, and every time I come, there's always somebody standing there, and you can clearly see that these people are mentally ill, and they have a big sign, "Hello, my name is so-and-so, I need help. Can you spare some change?" And these people are mentally ill just by, you see a person with just one tooth, and they're trying to smile. It's enough to make you weep. And as far as I'm concerned, I have absolutely no use for these politicians. I don't care if they're right, left, or center. And of course, above all, I condemn the Premier of this province and his cabinet that they should let this stuff go on. Why not open up Riverview and put these people in there, at least for the coldest part of the season, and see that they get decent meals and some support that they need? Nothing like clean clothes and a clean bed sheets and a nice clean room and a hearty breakfast and lunch and supper, and a good night's sleep.
And a lot of pharmaceuticals. Well,
they don't need the pharmaceuticals if they fed them properly and gave them some vitamins.
No, but is that what goes on in these psychiatric hospitals?
That's what they go on. And, of course, there's the electroshock therapy that goes on. We've seen the results of that. In some cases, it may well be warranted to stabilize the patient. But I would say that in probably about 99% of the cases, it's not warranted at all.
No.
Of course, we see electroshock therapy that the cops are using these days with their tasers.
The True Hope case is interesting.
Yes.
Because it was one individual's attempt to solve a problem in his own family.
Yeah, they had bipolar disorder, this sort of depression, and where they have suicidal thoughts. And in fact, if it isn't dealt with through, various means, either through the drugs, which unfortunately like Prozac, and its copycats, these are known as selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs. They can actually bring on the very thing that's supposed to be preventing depression and suicide, and even worse, mass murder. And virtually in every one of these cases where there has been somebody grabbing a machine gun and shooting up a whole group of high school or university students, it was in Montreal, how many years ago now? And this recent case in an army base in the United States, without exception, the people were on some kind of antipsychotic drug. And
no, people are going to ask, is it the psychosis that caused them to do that, or is it the drug that caused them to do that?
It's very likely the drug that did it, because it's not solving the problem. Because if it was solving the problem, they wouldn't be doing it, would they? And then along comes True Hope with this, because you see, it turns out that the man who was concerned about his family was friends with a gentleman who was involved in the animal feed industry, and made note of the fact that swine, or pigs indeed, can suffer from depression through overcrowding, and also by manipulating the feed for the swine, they are able to overcome that problem. So
I think they called it snout and tail disorder or something like that.
Yeah, well, they chew the ears off and the tails off of their fellow pigs, and of course this is understandable because of the overcrowding. And this is what happens because they're raising meat for mass marketing, and so they're doing it on a large scale. And it's just like the 100th monkey. You can only go so far with so many people, and then you start having a problem. Chickens do the same thing, so they get debeaked, so that they're not pecking at each other. And of course, there are other things that you could go into. But
so, with True Hope, he had tried on his. He had 2 kids that were suffering from rapid cycling bipolar disorder, and he had tried every drug cocktail that they have for these disorders, and nothing was getting better. And it was to the point where he was going to institutionalize his son. And then you had this conversation with the gentleman you're talking about, who said, it reminds me of the way that the pigs behave, and we solved it by providing them with this nutritional supplement that contained vitamins, and they just started to behave and were happy and
happy to go off to market
and social with each other before they were butchered. And a light bulb went off over his head, and he said, "Well, this may be the answer." And so they formulated their own vitamin supplement and tried it out on his kids, and it worked.
Yeah.
They got off all of their medications, and that's 16 years ago, I believe, or 17 years ago.
Yeah, and they started marketing it. They went to, they couldn't get anybody in Canada, I understand, to formulate for them, so they went to the United States and got a formulation, but they couldn't get it approved by Health Canada. And, of course, I can understand why, because in Health Canada, you've got, I would say, industry plants in there whose business it is to make sure that the interests of Big Pharma, and in this case, the makers of Prozac and this other corrupting stuff, aren't going to lose any business. And so they couldn't get the so-called drug identification number that would allow them to market the product and through, over the counter or through pharmacies or health food stores. And so they started marketing it by
mail order.
By mail order, anyways, and of course it was getting around through word of mouth, and so they were shipping it into Canada from the United States. And once Health Canada got wind of it, they started making seizures. And then they brought charges against the True Hope people. And it came before a judge in Calgary, and the judge said, well, wait a minute. You have these inspectors from Health Canada knowing full well that if the product is denied these people, that they will commit suicide, and yet they will keep it from coming into Canada, when clearly it is helping people and saving lives, and you're prepared to do that. And he said, in fact, the company would actually be liable, reverse liability, by not being able to, not supplying the product. They could be held accountable and in court. So how do you like that for a turnaround? And thanks to a very brilliant defense lawyer, Sean Buckley, the whole thing was turned around, and Health Canada was thrown out of court. And, of course, there's nothing.
Well, now they're in a position.
The worst thing you can do is step on a bureaucrat's toes or kick him in the backside. And that's exactly what the judge did.
Now they're in a position where if they are successful in blocking the product, then they're actually forcing True Hope to break the law.
That's right. And so they're between a hard rock and a hard place. And it shows you how much these bureaucrats, and the health minister herself should know this, as well as her predecessor, that they ultimately are responsible for the suicides of these people who are denied access to this product. It's as simple as that. As well as her political masters, Mr. Prime Minister Stephen Harper and his Attorney General.
Well, look at it from the other point of view. I guess there is a little bit of a point in that they're making a Schedule A claim that this nutritional supplement can cure bipolar disorder.
Well, that shows you how obsolete our food and drug laws are, or how archaic, that you can't make a claim for something that you know is going to help somebody. I mean, this is totally absurd. It's just like I'm making a Schedule A claim because I'm telling you if you take vitamin C or give it to your children, you're going to lessen their chances of developing scurvy, or if they have signs of it, you're going to cure it. Therefore, you're practicing medicine without a license. This is totally absurd.
And that's what they did. But here's the other problem. They said you don't have the scientific evidence to make this claim. They convinced the University of Calgary in Alberta, I believe, to do a clinical study on True Hope because the results that they were getting with their customers phenomenal. And they said, okay, we'll take it on. Well, what did Health Canada do? They said
actually shut the study down.
They said you need to have evidence. When they were getting the evidence, they prevented them from doing it.
Yeah, which shows you how hypocritical and how contradictory the system is. And I mean, this is a scandal that is a shame to the Canadian justice system and the health bureaucracy in Ottawa, as well as our political representatives, because I feel totally betrayed anyways, because there were two MPs in the Conservative caucus that were very sympathetic to the cause of True Hope, among others causes. And when it came to these bills, C6, they totally betrayed us. And they went along with the Prime Minister and the Health Minister like sheep. and totally betrayed. And I tell you, as far as I'm concerned, and I know this is off topic, but we need to change the system. Forget about two parties. We need to have what we call direct democracy, where everybody in Canada has to vote on an issue. They've got to learn about it and then vote on it. And like they do in Switzerland, so that matters of this kind of issue aren't going to be dependent on some ignorant prosecutor or judge or some ignorant bureaucrat, but in fact is going to be decided by science, true science. So you set up a science study at the University of Calgary or at the University at Lethbridge, and the government's going to shut it down because why? They want the evidence. Why would they prevent you from developing a study to get the evidence?
The good news is that it was only temporary, and they did get the study back.
Well, they were embarrassed by it. It was what a totally embarrassed by it, as they should be. They're totally shamed into having to do it. The
preliminary results of the study are very, very good.
Exactly, and it's backed up by a psychiatrist at Harvard. Mm-hmm. Whereas he was having to see patients frequently, I guess as much as, twice a week or something like that. It's down to maybe once every couple of months because they're doing so well on this product.
Yeah, I think there's the University of, I can't remember which university, but it's in San Diego, is also doing, cooperating with the University of Alberta on this.
Yeah, well, this is probably the University of Southern California in San Diego. Mm-hmm. But this is, it just points to how absurd the food and drug laws are to begin with. It's archaic. It was designed really to protect the interests of the pharmaceutical industry and not the health and well-being of Canadians. This is one reason why we have these actions against some of the B vitamins that were going on and vitamin C and minerals like chromium picolinate, for instance, and totally absurd, totally.
The latest story, or the latest development in the True Hope story, is that they are now taking, as we speak, they are taking Health Canada to court.
As they should, and I just hope that they have the finances to do it, because let's face it, they've only got whatever they are getting out of their business to pay for the court costs and the lawyers' fees, whereas Mr. Harper is busy raiding our pocketbook through income tax as well as the harmonized GST tax. So there you go. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think that in cases like this, that those responsible in Health Canada should be forced to pay part of the court costs when they lose the case. But this is typical. We have, for instance, this antiretroviral drug called nevirapine. And twice it was rejected by Health Canada as being too toxic. But through the machinations of two medical doctors, one locally and one out of Montreal, a drug that was rejected twice as being too toxic has now got approval. And interestingly enough, this drug did not get approval in any other country until it was approved in Canada. So this was the key to making a hell of a lot of money on a drug that kills a hell of a lot of people.
So B vitamins, in summary, they're good for the brain?
They're good for the brain. They're important for healing. They're important for healthy eyesight, for healthy eyes, for the health of your skin, the quality of your nails. If you get enough the minerals of calcium and magnesium and zinc and boron and so on, you're going to have better bones, you're going to have better nails. They say if you can't see the moons on your fingernails, especially the little fingers, maybe you're short of riboflavin. But I kind of think that's an old wives' tale, because I know people have no moons at all, and they have pretty good eyesight.
Interesting. What about cardiovascular health?
Oh, definitely. And there's evidence, of course, that both the B vitamins, all the B vitamins, especially niacin and vitamin B6, play a very important role in cardiovascular health. And of course, the cofactor minerals like zinc and magnesium, calcium. Selenium is another one, very important, works with the B vitamins. It's these minerals that actually make your vitamins work, because they activate the enzymes, because these vitamins are actually components of enzymes, as are the minerals. So enzyme therapy is very, very important in healing but it all works through vitamins and minerals.
We've talked about the deficiency diseases in regards to the B vitamins.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also talked about Dr. Hoffer and True Hope using a B vitamin supplement to treat
mental disease.
The theory is that some people have a much higher than usual requirement.
That's right. Either it's acquired as what happened to the Canadian prisoners of war in the Japanese camps that were almost starved to death. In many cases, of course, there was death through starvation. But because of this long-term malnutrition, they acquired they developed a need for higher amounts of some of the B vitamins, especially niacin, than what an ordinary diet would supply. And Dr. Hoffer was able to solve that problem. But that can happen to anybody. People that go on a fast, for instance, are taking a risk if they really don't know what they're doing on fasting. And because fasting means that maybe you're just going to be on water for a certain length of time. People go on hunger strikes for various reasons of politics or protest, so they can be at risk by developing a need for a nutrient normally that they extra need for a nutrient that they otherwise would have got by with normal levels.
If it's true that a lot of these disorders and conditions are the result of simply a nutritional deficiency, why isn't this common knowledge, and why aren't we seeing more doctors use vitamin therapy for these conditions?
Because doctors don't get very much nutrition in medical school. They might only get a couple of hours, and if that's the week that they're off on their honeymoon or on a holiday, or for some reason or another they might even be ill, they miss that. And so they go essentially out of medical school with their medical degree, but virtual ignorance on the importance of vitamins and minerals and overall nutrition against disease and for better health. It's just like my friend, his daughter said to her, "Well, I'm married to a doctor, and he comes from a family of doctors, so don't talk to me about vitamins. My husband and his doctor relatives don't believe in vitamins." Well, that can be a very dangerous matter of disbelief, because you can really open up a real can of worms down the road for your overall health.
I could understand why, the pharmaceutical industry wouldn't be promoting vitamins, because it's direct competition to what they're doing.
That's right.
And there's a lot of money in these psychiatric drugs. But in a country like Canada, where the treatments are paid for by the taxpayer,
mm-hmm.
Why do you feel that, if there's a more effective way of doing it, a more cost-effective way of doing it and solving these problems, why isn't it happening here?
Because it's all about money. You see, the profit is in these drugs. I mean, you have an anti-cancer drug like Erbitux, and it's about something like $1,200 a week for the treatment. And after 12 months, the patient's dead, but the tumors have shrunk. So you got people their cancer patients clamoring for that drug, because you have this little hint that it might be okay. Whereas on the other hand, you have somebody who is manufacturing cannabis oil, and we have anecdotal cases, yes, but people who were clearly diagnosed with either inoperable brain tumors or brain tumors that were operated on but kept recurring, and to the point where no more operations, yet on cannabis oil, tumors are gone, in remission. But nobody wanted to look at that. Why? Because you can grow cannabis all over the place. It's dirt cheap. Mm-hmm. And of course, but Erbitux, $1,300 or $1,200 a week. I mean, there's some drugs that are $30,000 a treatment. I mean, if you've got the money, and I guess if you're a millionaire or a billionaire, fine, you can buy the hospital and get whatever you want. But if you're just a senior citizen on a pension, then you're just going to get whatever your Medicare will allow. And believe me, it won't be very much. And of course, vitamins aren't on Medicare. You pay for them out of your own pocket.
True. But with 2/3 of the budget being, at least 2/3 of the budget being healthcare costs, and we've got all these people who are taking psychiatric medications where possibly all they need is vitamin B and mineral supplementation.
And vitamin C.
Which would be probably 1/20th of the cost of the drugs that they're on.
Well, for instance, if they put them on a medium potency multiple vitamin and mineral that gives you a 25 milligram spectrum of B vitamins and maybe, 150 milligrams of vitamin C, and you've got calcium and magnesium and 125 milligrams of calcium and 50 milligrams of magnesium, maybe 5 or 10 milligrams of zinc, and then you've got some other minerals in there, selenium, for instance, and so on. They took one of those a day and maybe an extra 500 milligrams of vitamin C for a whole year. If you did that to, say, a class of kids, and they come to school and they get their vitamin, and see how many are absent during the whole school year in terms of being sick with a cold or a flu or whatever. It would be a very interesting study to do. It would be very cheap to set up and do, and it could be done. And they might not have to give them flu shots then,
so we're talking
or shots
about,
for this, that, or the other thing.
Talking about increasing productivity, but just imagine how much money it would save the taxpayers if this was actually done for mainstream medicine.
Yeah,
True Hope did an economic analysis on. They got something like 10,000 people off of their psychiatric drugs and onto True Hope.
Yeah,
and they calculated the difference in the cost and how much money they were saving the healthcare system in Canada, and it was an absurd figure.
I should imagine it could be in the tens of thousands of dollars per person.
So we're talking about a lot of money.
That's right, and of course, who's out of pocket when that happens? It won't be True Hope for sure. And it certainly won't be the people that are taking the True Hope product, but it will be the manufacturer of the drugs that these people would have been on otherwise. But nobody takes that into consideration, least of all our politicians, who I think, whatever, if they were given a second brain, it would be lonely.
Well, I think that wraps it up for this week. And any final thoughts on B vitamins?
Yes, take them.
Take them.
Get yourself a good quality, high potency multiple vitamin and mineral that has all of the B vitamins, at least 25 milligrams each for what I call the macro Bs, like your thiamine and riboflavin and B5, B3 or B4. Your folic acid will be 1 milligram, and your B12 might be 25 micrograms, or it might even be 100 micrograms if you're lucky. Choline and inositol, 50 milligrams each. We didn't even get on to choline and inositol, but we could talk a lot about that alone.
I think you did mention it a little bit, but we didn't. Yeah, we didn't go into detail. No.
Yeah, and of course.
Well, I guess that's IP6 is an inositol factor of inositol.
Yes, and of course it's a fat emulsifier. It's a fat transporter, important for neurological function, keeping your cholesterol in solution, and keeping your cells coated well in cholesterol, and also helping you to make your own vitamin D, because the skin, the oil on your skin is number 70 hydrocholesterol. Cholesterol is an essential nutrient in its own fact. It's just that we can manufacture it, you see, from our food. So.
All right, so that wraps it up for this week. We'll be talking about vitamin C next time, and see you next week.
Yeah, if we're not censored. My pleasure. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Okay, see you next week.